Good day to all. Welcome to Extreme Recap. A man who looks like he works in an office is shown to us in the first scene. He wakes up to find that he is locked inside a vault room with nothing but a padlocked metal cupboard, a dead rat, and a fluorescent lamp full of dead flies. The man gets up on his feet and endeavors to open the vault entryway, yet his endeavors are to no end. From the beginning, he thinks that his partners are attempting to play a trick on him. So he looks around for buried cameras. However, even after a few hours have passed, there has been no activity from beyond the vault door. The unidentified man becomes even more perplexed as a result. A brief time later, he starts to get frantic and beats on the entryway, communicating a pressing need to utilize the restroom. His voice, however, is ignored. He tries using his cell phone to call for help, but the vault lacks a network. He also fails in his attempts to open the metal cabinet. He verbally attacks his colleague as his frustration grows, asserting that he will fire him once he receives in return. The man then uses his belt to make a noise against the door in the hope that someone will hear what he's doing. But once more without success. In a demonstration of rebellion, he pees inside the vaults, accepting that he is embarrassing those jokesters who are behind all of this. He is now simply standing at his own pace as there is still no response. As the hours pass, weariness sets in and the man becomes more vulnerable because of the shortfall of food and water. The man checks his cell phone once more for a network signal on the second day. Yet, there is no change. Even worse, while stuffing his phone into his pocket, he drops it by accident, causing it to break. At the moment, he decides to do something drastic because he is getting so thirsty. He pees in his cowhide shoe and beverages it, thinking of it as more terrible than a light lager. After this, the man starts kicking and punching his environmental elements amidst his eruption. He strikes the fluorescent light above him and out of the blue notification a vital inside it. Jumping all over the chance, he pulls down the light and recovers the key, which empowers him to open the metal cabinet. He finds a collection of tools inside. Notably a chisel, wrench, hammer, and blowtorch. The man decides to cut through the wall door with these tools. His absence of information on the best way to work the instrument drives him to surrender. Only a scorched mark remained on the iron door to the vault after a few minutes. Following this, the man tries to start the sprinklers and the gun in the ceiling. He is confident that he can extricate drinkable water from it. Yet, to his mistake, the caution is of no utilization as even in the wake of burning it with fire, nothing occurs. This main strengthens his disappointment, inciting him to vent his displeasure on the metal pantry by wrecking it. Nonetheless, he before long figures out how to quiet himself down, understanding that he needs to save his energy however much as could reasonably be expected, on the grounds that essentially nothing remains to be eaten. He reassures himself that he is still alive, not insane, and not dreaming. The man sees a small hole in one of the walls behind the metal cupboard a moment later, with fresh optimism. He makes an opening by chipping away at the wall with a hammer and chisel. As he begins to penetrate the walls, the vault room's oxygen level starts to drop. Accordingly, he continues to breathe in the oxygen from the chamber he had found before. Tragically, the convergence of oxygen ends up being excessively high, causing feel dizzy. He then, as before, closes the valve to balance the oxygen. At the moment, the man turns out to be very delicate because of yearning. As a result, he decides to focus on a dead mouse that has turned into a feeding ground for maggots. The maggots are then reluctantly consumed by him. Leaving the dead rodent for later in the following scene, the man proceeds with his exhuming lastly makes a forward leap. When he comes across the steel bars, he uses the blowtorch to cut them. In a little while, a beam of light enters through the opening, giving him re-established trust. The man then picks up his pace once more and gradually makes the area large enough for him to pass through it. But when he gets to the other side, he finds out that even this room is just another vault, and he is devastated. Very much like the one he was recently caught in. This enrages him a great deal since every one of his endeavors have gone to no end. The second room, in contrast to the first, has a coffin and a curious-looking lamp next to it. He opens the cover of the casket, only to discover a woman peacefully sleeping inside, dressed in traditional attire. He carefully touches the woman to determine whether she is dead. She does, however, awaken to his surprise, startled by his presence and the chisel in his hand. Despite his attempts to communicate, she shrieks in horror and quickly flees from him. The language barrier prevents them from communicating with one another, suffocated by fear. The man had been staying in the first vault room when the woman made her way there. The latter simply lies down in the coffin to rest and does not attempt to chase her. On the third day, the lady awakens the man and urges him to keep digging the passage. In any case, the unfortunate person has no energy passed on to work any further. His hands have also suffered severe injuries as a result of the incessant labor with no other options. The man continues to show the lady how to dig the passage, and she honestly starts the errand while they are working. The lady acknowledges she wants to ease herself and heads to the next space for some protection. The man follows her and mediates, similarly as she is going to eliminate her genes through motions and gesture-based communication. He proposes that she pee in his cowhide shoes so they can involve it as a wellspring of water. Thank goodness he found a way to avoid being creepy. At first reluctant, she ultimately consents to do as such. They proceed with this bizarre solution and consume the urine without much thought after learning that the man has been without water for 3 days and that her urine is essential to his survival. He also offers the woman some water, but the woman is disgusted. She does so reluctantly and, after this, the man consumes a few additional parasites, acquiring the protein he was inadequate. He then, at that point, continues his digging work while the lady sits in a corner, defeat with distress for her sad destiny. She murmurs in her native tongue to convey her disappointment at not being able to attend a wedding that day, despite her excitement about it. However, all of her joy has vanished now that she is trapped. She cries, addressing what she fouled up to wind up in such a critical circumstance while missing her pain. The man decides to sing a song to cheer her up. It's known as the I Drank Your Showstopper tune. With his consolation, the lady gradually wipes away her tears and goes along with him in singing. Be that as it may, their temporary snapshot of joy is fleeting as the man incidentally hits his own hand rather than the etch, making him drain. As a consequence of this, the woman takes off her head scarf, cuts it into strips, and applies them to his wound. Following this, the two start work in participation, zeroing in on digging through the wall as they progress forward with their work. Behind them, the lock on the vault door begins to rotate automatically. Seeing this, they promptly rush towards the entryway trying to open it. But as they get closer to the door, it becomes locked. This common example proceeds, and they consider disregarding it, accepting that somebody is playing with them. Be that as it may, inevitably, they at last translate the real stunt on the most proficient method to open the entryway. As it turns out, as long as they keep their backs to the vault door, it opens all alone. With this insight, the man comes up with a plan, and the two cautiously walk backwards in the direction of it. They are able to enter the third room thanks to the door remaining open, which is surprising. They are in yet another vault, just like the previous one, but this one has an empty grave with a tombstone in its center. The woman suggests, after looking around the room, employing the same trick to open the vault door by turning their backs on it. The man loves the thought, thus they position themselves with their backs towards the entryway and begin digging the grave further. This time, unfortunately, their strategy does not result in the desired outcome. Due to prolonged hunger and dehydration, the man is exhausted at this point. He gradually loses faith and lies worriedly in his grave. Due to his weekend, the woman notices that he has a fever when she checks on him. Inevitably, the man starts to believe that the mastermind behind everything wants them to fight with one another. He surmises that they cannot get away from except if one of them is killed and that the grave in that room represents the destiny of one of them. As strains raise, the man considers killing the lady, yet he misses the mark on mental fortitude to complete such a demonstration. He screams, expressing his agony and stating that he can endure eating dead rats and maggots, but at this point, he cannot bring himself to kill anyone. The man has lost all expectation, and he just needs to die calmly. Nonetheless, the lady slaps and kicks him, encouraging him to remain alert. She then in some way figures out how to complete him of the grave and permits him to rest for some time. After an hour, the irritated lady begins shouting and beating on the vault entryways. She guides her cries towards God, addressing why she has been caught and what sin she has committed. She breaks down in tears because she is so overwhelmed with emotions. Even in this critical moment, she feeds the man her tears to help him live. Not long after, she holds his hand, and startlingly kisses him. She then disrobes the man and starts contacting him tenderly, which rapidly awakens him. The arrangement is to keep him alive by having intercourse with them. What's more, regardless of whether it comes up short, essentially he'll be stirred up. Shockingly, the arrangement works and the man gets revived after the trial that you then, at that point, choose to rest for a couple of hours. In the following scene, the man awakens and finds the lady nestled into him, detecting her uneasiness from the virus. He sneaks into the second room, rips the velvet lining off the coffin, and then returns to wrap her in it. Incredibly depleted, the man falls indeed onto the ground. The man hears the vault door unlocking in the same haste as before a few hours later. He stirs the lady, however keeps her from checking the entryway out. The two then, at that point, utilize their past stunt and some way or another figure out how to walk in reverse, advancing towards the iron entryway. When they step beyond the room, they are loaded up with monstrous help as they are welcomed by a stunning view highlighting cascades, birds and blossoms, observing the paradise they are looking at. The two grin at one another in the film. Reaches a conclusion. Turn on notifications. Please subscribe for more videos like this, and like the channel to support it. Thank you very much for watching.